Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Zack and I am a construction site foreman. I was just recently promoted and started working nights. This new work schedule has given me some unexpected opportunities to do things I've always wanted to do during the day. My wife Olivia and I have been married for many years, and we have a son, Nathan, who is in high school. Nathan was a starter on his school's baseball team, and I was always proud of him. We live in a quiet neighborhood with a detached shed in the backyard of the house. Recently, I've started using my daytime hours to renovate this cabin. At first, I just wanted to turn it into a cozy studio, but as time went on, I started thinking about transforming it into a full living space. I had a vague idea in the back of my mind that maybe I could move in when Nathan went to college. At the time, I didn't realize how important this idea would become in the near future. One afternoon, I was busy installing new wiring in the shed. Suddenly, I heard voices coming from the house. Olivia should be at work, and Nathan went to his grandparents' house, so no one should be home. Out of curiosity, I put down the tools in my hands and gingerly walked towards the source of the sound. The sound seemed to come from our bedroom. I cautiously made my way to the bedroom door and suddenly remembered the old air conditioning vent in our bedroom. Olivia has been complaining about the noise it makes, but I haven't had time to deal with it. Now, this vent became my window to peer into the interior of the bedroom. Holding my breath, I carefully removed some of the insulation and peered in through the vent. At that moment, my heart sank to the bottom. I saw Olivia with a man who I recognized as a colleague from her company, Lucas Grant. I can't describe how I felt at that moment. Shock, anger, pain. All the emotions came flooding back. I wanted to rush in and question them, but some force made me stop. I knew that if I did that, it could ruin everything, especially for Nathan. I forced myself to calm down, took out my cell phone, and quietly recorded a video. I don't know why I did it, maybe to leave evidence, maybe just because I couldn't believe my eyes. For the next few minutes, I overheard their conversation. Lucas asked Olivia, "Can your husband fulfill you? Or can't he?" Olivia weakly protested, "I told you not to mention Zack." Lucas continued, "It's not about him. He may be a good lover and a good father, but you're still here, in his bed with me. What does that say about you?" I felt a wave of nausea as I listened to their conversation. I tried to turn away, but my feet felt like they were nailed to the ground. Finally, when it was all over, I heard Lucas say, "See how exciting it is to do this in your husband's bed." I finally found the strength to leave quietly. I went back to the cabin and sat down on the floor, feeling chills all over my body. My mind went blank and I didn't know what to do. That night, when Olivia came home again, I forced myself to act like everything was normal. I didn't expose her. I didn't question her. Instead, I decided to focus on Nathan's schoolwork first. I know that if I have a falling out now, it could affect Nathan's studies and future. From that day on, I started renovating the cabin at an accelerated pace. I use it as my refuge from reality. I told myself that when Nathan went to college, I could move out and start my life over. I began to distance myself from Olivia and refused to share a bed with her. I made up all sorts of excuses. I was too tired from work, needed a quiet environment to sleep, and didn't want to disturb her. I could tell Olivia was confused and upset by my behavior, but she seemed to accept this new lifestyle. Every night, as I lay alone on my bed in the guest room, I wondered, had I done something wrong? Should I confront her directly? But every time I see Nathan's smiling face, I know I made the right choice. I decided that for the sake of our son, I would remain silent until the time was right. This life is not easy. Every day, I have to pretend I don't know anything and continue to play the role of a competent husband and father. But I knew that one day the lie would be exposed. I just hoped that by then, I'll be ready to face everything. Over time, I grew accustomed to this two-sided life. During the day, I continued to renovate the cabin. At night, I went to work at the site. This busy life gives me an excuse to escape reality. But most of all, I'm glad that I have more time to be involved in Nathan's life. I started as a volunteer assistant coach for Nathan's baseball team. Every weekend, I go to community parks for team practices and games. It was there that I met Nathan's best friend Zack's mom, Sarah. Sarah is a freelance graphic designer, always with a warm smile. One day, after training, Sarah came up to me and talked to me. "Zack, you've been looking tired lately," she said with concern. "Night shift work must be hard, huh?" I forced a smile. It really wasn't easy, but it was all worth it to spend more time with Nathan. Sarah nodded, then lowered her voice and said, "You know, some of the single moms are interested in you. They're always talking about you." I was a little surprised. "Really? I didn't notice that at all." Sarah laughed. "You were so focused on the kids that you didn't notice. But I have to warn you, Olivia seems to have noticed. She didn't look too good when she came to watch the game last week." My heart sank. Olivia came to watch the game? I didn't even notice she was there. I'm beginning to realize that my alienation may be more pronounced than I thought. Sarah hesitated, then said, "Zack, I don't know if I should tell you this, but there are some rumors going around that Olivia and a coworker at her firm, you know." I forced myself to hold back the pain inside and acted like I knew nothing. "What does that mean?" Sarah sighed. "Which means that she may have cheated on her. I know it's just a rumor, but I thought you should know." I was silent for a moment, then smiled bitterly and said, "Sarah, thank you for telling me this. The truth is, I already knew." Sarah looked at me in surprise. "You knew? Then why did you?" I took a deep breath. "For Nathan's sake. I don't want this to affect his schooling or his future. I'm going to wait until he's in college before I think about the divorce." Sarah's eyes filled with sympathy. "Oh, Zack, I don't know what to say. You're such a good father." From that day on, Sarah and I became closer. We often have coffee and chat together after training. She became my confidant, listening to me about my pain and confusion. One day, out of the blue, Sarah asked me, "Zack, have you ever thought about starting over?" I froze. "What do you mean?" Sarah's face flushed slightly. "I mean, since Olivia has betrayed you, have you considered finding someone to keep you company?" I shook my head. "I can't do that, Sarah. Whatever Olivia did, I don't want to be a betrayer." Sarah gently took my hand. "Zack, you don't need to keep punishing yourself. You deserve to be happy too." I felt a warmth come over me. I was touched by Sarah's kindness and concern, but I wasn't sure I was ready to start a new relationship. At the same time, I noticed that Olivia was starting to become suspicious of my behavior. She often asks me why I'm always out and why I'm no longer intimate with her. I can only put it off with the excuse that I'm busy at work and too tired. One night, Olivia finally relented. "Zack, what happened to us?" she asked, tears in her eyes. "Do you don't love me anymore?" I looked at her with mixed feelings. How I wish I could tell her the truth, tell her I know everything she did. But I just shook my head and said, "I just need some time, Olivia. Work is stressful and I need to adjust." Olivia didn't seem convinced, but she didn't press further. I could see she was in pain, but I couldn't forgive her for her betrayal. And so, our lives went on. During the day, I worked in the hut. At night, I went to work at the site. Over the weekend, Sarah and I watched the kids play baseball together. This life is not perfect, but at least it gives me some solace. I knew that one day I would need to face reality and make a decision. But right now, I just want to focus on Nathan and give him a stable home environment. As for my future with Olivia, that's for later. Life went on peacefully until that fateful night. That evening, I was busy at the construction site when I got a call from Nathan out of the blue. There was a hint of panic in his voice. "Dad, we're in trouble." Turns out that Nathan and Zack, along with two girls, Lily and Emma, drove to a remote road on the outskirts of town. Emma's car suddenly had a flat tire, and the offending spare tire was nowhere to be found. To make matters worse, they noticed a couple of unsuspecting-looking hooligans prowling around the neighborhood. "Don't worry, I'll be right over," I reassured Nathan while moving quickly. I called up Emma's Uncle Jack and my colleague George, grabbed my tools and spare tire, and headed to the scene in a hurry. When we arrived, it was worse than I thought it would be. A couple of hooligans had started to approach the kids' car. I took a deep breath and got out of the car. Hey guys, I said in as calm a tone as I could manage. We're here to help these kids change their tires. Can you guys give us some space? The hoodlum in charge sneered, "This is our territory. You have to pay to work here. I know there's no point in negotiating anymore." Just as the hoodlum reached out to push me, I quickly grabbed the jackhammer in my hand and slammed it down hard on his knee. He screamed miserably and fell to his knees, and the others, obviously not expecting me to make a sudden move, froze in place. Jack and George took the opportunity to step forward and pose for an attack. "Now," I said calmly, "do you want to continue this unequal battle, or do you want us to quietly help these kids change their tires?" The hooligans looked at each other in dismay and finally backed away resentfully. We got to work quickly. I changed the tire while keeping an eye on my surroundings. The kids were terrified, especially the girls, and Emma and Lily clung to each other. "Don't worry," I told them. "Everything will be fine." 10 minutes later, we changed the tire. I instructed the kids to leave immediately, and then followed them with Jack and George to make sure they got home safely. The next day, the story spread around the site. Everyone praised me for my bravery and resourcefulness. But I know I'm just doing what a father is supposed to do. What I didn't realize, however, was that this incident would be the trigger to reveal everything. A few days later, Sarah found me with a complicated look on her face. "Zack," she spoke hesitantly, "I heard about the other night. You were so brave." I smiled. "Thanks, but that's nothing. Any father would have done that." Sarah shook her head. "No, not everyone does that. You know, Lily's dad, Lucas, got a call for help at the time, but he left them to figure it out on their own." I froze. "Lucas, the man who was having an affair with Olivia." Sarah continues, "Olivia had a huge fight with Lucas at work today, accusing him of being irresponsible. And then she finally admitted their relationship and said she wanted to end the wrong relationship." I felt a wave of vertigo. Everything suddenly became clear. Olivia finally sees Lucas for what he is, and I suddenly don't know how to react. Just then, I saw Olivia walking towards us. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she had obviously been crying. "Zack," she said shakily, "can we talk?" I glanced at Sarah, who nodded and left with a sense of humor. Olivia sat down, tears welling up again. "Zack, I made a terrible mistake. I betrayed you. I betrayed our family. I don't know how to make it right, but please believe me, I really regret it." I was silent for a long time. I've known this day would come for a long time, but when it did, I didn't know what to say. Why? It was the only thing I could say. Olivia shook her head painfully. "I don't know. Maybe it's because of loneliness. Maybe it's because of vanity. But none of that is an excuse. I hurt you. I hurt Nathan. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I do expect you to give me a chance to make up for it all." I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. "Olivia, you know what? I've known about you and Lucas for a long time." Olivia looks at me in shock. You knew? Then why?" "For Nathan's sake," I said. "I don't want to put his life in jeopardy. I've been waiting until he's in college to decide on our future." Olivia was in tears. "Oh, Zack, I don't know what to say. You're so much stronger than I thought you were." I'm really sorry." I looked at her with mixed feelings. I used to love this woman so much, but now, I'm not sure I can trust her anymore. "Olivia," I finally said, "I need time. I don't know if we have a future, but right now, we need to look out for Nathan. Let's keep things the way they are for now, okay?" Olivia nodded and wiped away her tears. "I understand. I'll try to earn your trust back, Zack. I promise." I felt a wave of exhaustion as I watched Olivia's departing back. The storm has finally passed, but I know that the real challenge has just begun. Can Olivia and I rebuild our relationship? Will I ever be able to trust her again? These are questions that only time will give answers to. And at this moment, I just want to go back to my cabin, the haven that is just for me. There, I can meditate and prepare for the upcoming future. Over the next few days, my life fell into a strange equilibrium. Olivia worked hard to repair our relationship, while I was torn between trust and doubt. Sarah has always stood by me with support and understanding. Sarah approached me one day with a complicated look on her face. "Zack," she whispered, "we need to talk." We sat on a park bench, and Sarah took a deep breath and said, "I'm moving back to LA." I felt a pang of loss. Why? Is it because of me and Olivia? Sarah shook her head. "No, it's not about that. Zack got a baseball scholarship to a top prep school. It's his chance, and I can't take it away from him." I forced a smile through the pain I felt inside. "That's great. Zack's a talented player. He deserves this opportunity." Sarah looked me in the eyes. "Zack, you've meant a lot to me these past few months. I'm in love with you. But I know that now is not the right time." I take Sarah's hand. "Sarah, you're important to me too. But you're right, it's so complicated right now." Sarah smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "I know. But I want you to know that if there's a day in the future, when the dust settles, if you're still single and I am too, maybe we can start over." I nodded. Maybe. Who knows what the future holds? Just then, I saw Olivia walking towards us. Her expression was a little nervous, but she still maintained a polite smile. "Excuse me," Olivia said. "Zack, can I talk to you?" Sarah stood up. "I should get going, Zack. Thank you for everything this time." She gave me a hug and left. Olivia sat down next to me and was silent for a moment before speaking. "So, you and Sarah?" I interrupted her. "Olivia, don't get me wrong. Sarah is just a good friend." Olivia smiled bitterly. "But she loves you, right?" I can see it in her eyes. I didn't know how to respond, only silence. Olivia continued, "Zack, I've been thinking about our relationship for the past few months. I know I made an unforgivable mistake, but I really want to save our marriage." I take a deep breath. "Olivia, I don't know if I can trust you anymore." "I understand," Olivia said, tears in her eyes. "But please give me a chance. Let's start over and rebuild trust. For Nathan, for everything we've ever had." I look at Olivia and suddenly realize that despite everything that's happened, deep down I still love her. But is love enough? "I need time," I finally said. "Let's take it slow, okay?" Olivia nodded, her face glowing with hope. Over the next few months, we began the difficult process of rebuilding. We attended marriage counseling together in an effort to rebuild trust. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it struggles. But we're all trying. Nathan seems to have sensed a change in the family. One day he asked me, "Dad, are you and Mom okay?" I patted him on the shoulder. "We're trying, son. Life can be complicated sometimes. But the important thing is that we always love you." Nathan nodded and gave me a hug. At that moment, I knew every decision we made was worth it. When Sarah and Zack moved out, I felt a pang of loss. But I know it's probably for the best. It gave Olivia and I a chance to start over without outside interference. As time passed, I found myself beginning to trust Olivia again. Her every action shows her sincerity and repentance. Slowly, we began to rebuild our relationship. One night, while we were sitting together in the backyard looking at the stars, Olivia suddenly said, "Zack, thank you for this opportunity. I know I don't deserve it, but I promise I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." I looked into her eyes and saw sincerity and love. At that moment, I made my decision. "Olivia," I whispered, "we all make mistakes. But what matters is how we learn and grow from our mistakes. I think we can start over." Olivia's eyes glistened with tears as she hugged me tightly. And with that, we begin a new chapter. Our relationship is no longer the innocent love that it used to be, but one that is more mature and stronger after weathering the storm. The day Nathan left for college, our family stood under the dormitory building and hugged each other. I am incredibly proud to watch my son grow into a fine young man. "Take care of yourself, son," I said, "and remember that no matter what happens, we will always love you." Nathan smiled and said, "I know, Dad. Thanks for your continued support." Watching Nathan walk into the dormitory building, Olivia and I walked back to the parking lot holding hands. "We did it," Olivia said softly. "We got through it together." I nodded. "Yes, we did." On the way home, I thought about the cabin I was once going to move into. It is now a cozy guest room in our home. Life isn't perfect, but it's real. We have experienced betrayal, doubt, and pain. But we have also found forgiveness, understanding, and new life. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that as long as we're together, we can face anything. That night, lying in bed with Olivia snuggled in my arms, I remembered all the experiences of the last few years. I thought of Sarah and wondered how she was doing. I hope she has found her own happiness as well. Life is like a long-distance run, with ups and downs, laughter and tears. But the important thing is that we keep going and never give up. Because what awaits us at the end of the runway may be unexpected goodness. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.